Obviously, interview preparation, as you know, is a very important aspect of the match process. Getting the invite per se is a great achievement. It means your profile, scores, letters have impressed the program. They see a potential fit. But even in this virtual world, your job is only half done. And if you go back and look at the program director surveys carried out by NRMP, it's clear that interview performance is very crucial even in this season, which is mostly virtual. So don't take the preparation lightly, because a poor interview performance will seriously damage your candidacy, even if you are well qualified. And if you have an outstanding interview, it will significantly strengthen your application. So preparation is the key here. So whatever we are going to talk about today, you will have to prepare. So some of the questions that we'll talk about, and we do have a set of questions freely available on our website. You can go there, and there are other blogs also that you can see on our website. Okay, so let's just dive straight in and start. So first, regardless of the question, you should remember what your response has to contain and who are you interviewing with. So whether you are framing a response, look at three things. The first is the content, then the structure of your response, and finally the articulation and the communication and so on, right? So content obviously is the key. Without your personalized content or experiences that you can talk about, the rest won't matter. Content will come from either your clinical experience or otherwise volunteer as well. How, for example, you may have handled difficult patients, how you may have helped in some volunteer activity, how you may have led a team, how you may have overcome a challenge. So everything, each one of your experiences is content that you can use. Then of course there is the structure. Many IMGs fail to organize their thoughts and thought process and responses. Remember, of course, the time for the interview as well as for one question is quite limited. So even if you have great content, unless you can structure it well in easy to understand flow without rambling, you won't make an impact. So one suggestion we always have is to think about not more than 3 to 4 things or themes to say in a response, and limit your responses to maybe 90 seconds, 2 minutes. We generally go 90 seconds or maximum 2 minutes. So that will help you with the structure. And the third is the actual articulation or communication of the response. It has to demonstrate the right tone and the passion and the enthusiasm that you need to tailor it to the specific audience, whether it's the program director or some other attending, or maybe even when talking to a chief resident or a resident. So we also have other YouTube videos. This will go up on YouTube, so feel free to watch this later on our YouTube channel as well. But let's get into the questions. So first, of course, the most painful, the most obvious one that everyone needs to prepare for, whether or not they ask you, is tell me something about yourself. So you must have heard a lot about this, but I'll tell you what this is not. This is not a recitation of your CV. It is all about communicating an enthusiastic fit to the program, to that specialty, in about 90 seconds, 2 minutes, so on, so in a limited time. Obviously, like every question, it varies with the individual. There is no one size fits all for this, but you can all highlight a few things. Your work experience, relevant work experience, your USCE and the learnings. Perhaps it can be your research. It is okay also to bring in your volunteer experience or other aspects that may have shaped you as a person or a physician fit for that position. Just don't force things into this. For example, many students who have nothing else to say will say as a last line, on a personal note, I like cooking or something, and then they will stop, which has no bearing with the flow of the response. Second, it is perfectly okay to have a mix of your clinical, professional, and personal journey in this response. But not everything can be non-clinical or non-medical, right? The other common mistake we've seen in this is people starting from their childhood and going chronologically, talking about the middle school, the high school, the college, and the first job and the second job. So that's all in the CV. You need to abstract it out of the CV and make it flow in that limited time. The other common mistake in this question is not closing properly. Many students will just end with that's it. So they will be speaking something and then they will just say that's it. So closure of a response is very important. Remember this for all responses. So in brief, the tell me something about yourself is an enthusiastic kind of a fit, a summary of your fit for the program on what you have done, how your accomplishments and maybe even goals make you a fit at that program. So again, this varies with individuals. It can be mix of your clinical, non-clinical aspects. Just don't recite your CV. The other questions we got a lot was how to talk about red flags, whether it's a gap, whether it's low scores, attempts, things like that. So very common questions, especially if you have these things, and be ready to answer, prepare a response that will be needed. Remember, the programs, if they've invited you, are okay with your red flags. Otherwise, you won't have the interview. So what they want to know is how you discuss these red flags. If you are overtly defensive, that will show, and that's not something that they want. They do want to confirm that you are clinically active and ready to start despite, say, your gaps and so on and so forth. So when it comes to answering your gaps, obviously don't lie. Acknowledge the gap. Probably you have the reasons, give them the reasons. But remember, most of the reasons they've already seen over the years. So be honest, acknowledge it, but then move on. You have to tell them how you have overcome those flags, what have you done, and that you are now ready and committed and working towards a goal. So that's a trick a lot of applicants miss. They keep on going about their flags and defending those red flags, but you really have to move on, and the program wants to see that now you are committed and you are actually working towards that residency position. The next question is, again, where a lot of IMGs fumble, is how do I talk about my hobbies, etc. So this is not used effectively by most IMGs. So they will say, I like listening to the music, cooking, so on. What you need to do is to be able to hold about a 10-minute conversation if needed on your hobby. There have been times, even in this season, previous seasons, that the entire interview has revolved around a hobby. So hobbies means you are at some level an expert. They are not developed overnight. It takes months and sometimes even years. You've been practicing it, right? So if you have to talk about, in this case, say cooking, you probably need to show them something more than this, more the other side of the personality. Maybe you have organized large gatherings. Maybe you volunteered at a local homeless kitchen, temple, and cooked and all that. So take cooking to the other level. And this is true for other hobbies also. Just don't make it bland and, I like cooking or I like this thing. Make sure you can show them how you have used it and how you're passionate about it, and probably, like in case of cooking, how you've helped others. How do I talk about my research experience? So if you have put a research experience, publications on your CV, you will be asked about it. The onus is on you to have a meaningful discussion for 5 to 10 minutes. Uh, you have put it, so you need to know everything about the project. You may not know the intricate details, like which statistical uh, algorithm went in, but literature review, hypothesis, analysis, data. You cannot just say that I wrote the introduction. This is another mistake a lot of students do. I just wrote the introduction or that one part and I don't know anything else. So that's not what talking about research means. So you need to be able to give them an overview of your project, your specific role, that is most important, and then the outcomes. Now the outcomes can be tangible, which is the manuscript, case reports, abstracts, whatever else you may have. Or if you don't have these, then talk about the skills you acquired, maybe statistical exposure, maybe teamwork, maybe other skills that you may have acquired as part of this project. And so I'll give you an example. So if you have a project, you want to talk about it, you could say, I'm part of this multidisciplinary team, obviously whatever this team was, and we are working on, various or one research project, and then talk about that research project. And my contribution was, now being very specific, my contribution was in hypothesis generation, literature search, research design, writing, or anything else that you may have done. And then talk about outcome. So far, we have submitted, X number of articles, abstracts, or working on this thing. And then you can close with, as part of this experience, I've gained valuable skills in A, B, and C. Okay. So that's the way to structure the research related response. Some of the other questions that we got: how do I answer question about fear about starting the residency? What fears do you have about starting residency? What challenges do you foresee in residency? So the trick in these kind of questions is you really need to give them a solution as well. It cannot just be your fear or your challenge. So you need to tell them how you are overcoming it, or what your plans are, or what have you done so far, and then acknowledge that this could be an issue. So some of the common ones could be, the working in a multidisciplinary team. So teams here are very different. You have to work with, say, even social workers, pharmacies, case managers. You may have to, work with trying to organize a palliative care transition. So something probably not done in your country from a process perspective. How do you work with these multidisciplinary team? That is a very obvious kind of a challenge if you have not done it. The other thing is obviously increased decision making and responsibility that comes as a resident. So far, if you've been a student or you've done some rotations, your decision making and your responsibility is not to that level. Now, of course, you are in the limelight, you are in the forefront, you have to make those decisions. So that's an obvious challenge. How do you learn this thing? How do you overcome this challenge? So you have to be able to tell them, you have to be able to relate it to how you may have done it in various other jobs, in various other positions, externship, that had you make this decision. Okay. Another question: give me an example of your success. So success can be clinical or can be otherwise. A non-clinical role. For example, learning to lead. Anything which you have to stretch for, right? So success is something that you have to go over and above what was expected of you. It can be that you organized some kind of a volunteer group, or even in this COVID situation, maybe some volunteering activity that you led, that you had to bring the team together, you had to organize, you have to get some resources, those kind of things. And of course, it can also be clinical learning in terms of probably something that you learned from a case that was not was you were expecting or you were not trained for, and then you helped the team in that. So those are some examples of just the team based learning that they like to see. This question is actually, do you expect a second interview wave of interview invites? Yes, the answer is yes. The interviews are still continuing, by the way. So you can expect there will still be cancellation. There are students that are canceling with 20 plus interviews. We have students with 30 plus interviews. So you can expect a second wave. It is coming gradually in December. We do expect interviews in December also. So then there are these crazy questions. I see that on my screen. What cell you are, what electrolyte, what car, what animal. The ideal way to answer such questions, is to be able to relate it eventually to some skill that will be relevant to a residency position. It can be anything, right? So we've generally seen, what animal, what car. So obviously, pick an animal, for example, that may be very hardworking, or someone which is a team player, and likewise for a car, a car that can maybe a Japanese car, that can give you thousands and hundreds and thousands of miles without breaking down. Something that makes you feel maybe spacious, comfortable. So the point here is these crazy questions have a reason, and the reason they want to see is your personality. How do you relate to those things, and can you then demonstrate those skills that they may want in the residency. So that's where you have to think through, and many of these questions can be unexpected, of course. How do you deal with a negative feedback? Obviously, you have to talk to them and say that you are always looking for improvement opportunities. Even if it's a negative feedback, you take it in a very constructive way, constructive criticism. And then you have to give them some example and show them that how you have improved. So for example, you may have gotten a feedback that you cannot delegate, and that you try to do everything yourself, and that delays everything else that the team is trying to do, or something like how you were not prepared for morning rounds, for example, and you may have gotten a feedback from this attending, and so those would be examples of feedback that you worked on and improved. So then you have to tell them what else have you been doing, how have you improved that feedback. The other question is, why do you want to join our program? So very important question, why are you a fit? So the best kind of responses in this case, why us and why our program, you have to do your homework. Prior to the interview, you really want to intimately know anything and everything about the program, of course from the website, of course from probably if you have seniors there, if you know people there, you want to know what kind of environment is there. If you know people you are going to interview with, you got to research them, you got to see who they are, what their background is, and you have to then demonstrate how you will contribute to the program, how you will give back to the program, and also how you fit in the overall scheme and in the profiles that they hire, in maybe the kind of goals that you have, whether it is in primary care, and that program may be serving a lot of such communities, they may be having a focus on primary care, so on and so forth. So the trick in this question is just to study the program. So a lot of your response will have to be just customized to the program. Some programs, of course, are heavy on research, so you can bring that aspect also. I did see one question: how to answer a leadership question? Any structure we can follow? Yes, of course. So understand what is leadership. Leadership is different than teamwork. So in this case, what you have to ask yourself is, what does a leader do? A leader, delegates. A leader resolves conflicts. A leader may be involved in team selection or whatever, right? So you then have to think through your experience and talk to them about about that experience in view of leadership, not teamwork. How you maybe resolve the conflict, how you led from the front, how you delegated. It's not only I did this for that piece of work. It is how you enabled your team to grow and thrive in that project environment. So yes, leadership questions are important. It can be clinical, non-clinical aspects, but it is different than teamwork. Why should we hire you? Yes, this is very similar to why you are interested in our program. So what they are looking for is two things. One, what skills you bring to the table. What is so unique in you that, in terms of your skills, experience, that we should be interested in ranking you. And the second piece is, why do you find us interesting? Why do you want to work here, or why do you want to match here? So that's where you have to think through these two aspects. What are your experiences, skills that you bring that we will be interested in you? And secondly, why are you interested? What have you done to research about us? That's what needs to go in why we should hire you. Should we look at the camera all the time, or should we look at the screen? So I think it's a very obvious question, and thank you for asking. This comes up. I think, in the 10-15 minute interview, and like I'm talking with you, I'm reading the questions that are coming up on my screen, and then I'm looking at the camera. So that's you have to be able to, in the interview, look at the camera primarily, because you're not reading something. Unless you're reading something, then there is an excuse to look at the screen, but you should be looking at the camera more or less. Now there are times when you're thinking, you may be looking up in the sky or somewhere else, but avoid that. Camera is where you need to look at, and of course your eyes will dart here and there and you can see the reaction, but primarily it has to be the camera. Is withholding information about any red flag considered unethical? Well, again, I don't know what that red flag is. So obviously, when you say withholding, it may mean it is not even on your CV or transcript. So I don't know what that would be, because your scores, your gaps, your the transcript is what it is. They have information about it. So what are you withholding that may be a flag but not on your CV? Without knowing what it is, I won't be able to say. Will wearing headphones or Bluetooth have a negative impact? No, I don't think so. Just remember that you will be there for 4 to 5 hours. So you may not be comfortable. Can use an external mic if you want, but no. Bluetooth earphones, headphones are just fine. Can we say where we grew up, med school in India, etc. during? Tell me about yourself. That should be avoided. I mean, grew up, unless it is related to your experiences, unless it has really shaped you as a physician who you are today. So maybe you grew up in some remote area, some village, and for the first 10-15 years of your life, you didn't see any advancement in technology, no infrastructure. But these kind of things, most IMGs have done it in past, they've listened to it. Unless you are from a top med school, everything is there in your CV. So these things should be avoided. And tell me something about yourself. What mistakes have you made? What failures? Again, the failure can be anything, can be in clinical, but of course you don't want to kill anyone, or non-clinical. You may not have been a good team player, you may have made other mistakes. So failure and teamwork is a very common question. Again, the idea here is what they want to see is your learning, not really caring about your failure. That's not something they want to see what you have learned. So very quickly, when you talk about your failure, yes, admit your own mistake, admit where you were wrong, and then move on to say how you have gotten that feedback, how you have improved it, and now that you're a better person and a physician because of that mistake you made. Who is a leader according to you? So like I mentioned before in this webinar, the qualities of leadership are important. So go over that. Delegation, resolving conflict, leading from the front, that person is a leader. And then you can give them examples of your own experiences, how you've handled leadership positions. Is it a good idea to prepare a PowerPoint presentation of my CV? I don't think so. It's a virtual environment. They would have your CV up on their screen. PowerPoint presentation, just reiterating the same things in your CV. I'm not sure how that is going to be useful, but if you can try it and let us know. I don't think a PowerPoint presentation walking them through your CV, because the time is limited and they may not want to ask every question about your CV. How to answer why internal medicine, why pediatrics, why family medicine? This is the basic question, right? You all need to know your primary specialty, and this is again a combination of either your experiences, either rotations which you may have done, recent graduates may have done extra internships, then rotations, then USC. So combination of all that and what interested you in that specialty, so pick some interesting cases, pick some experiences that you may have had, and then combine it with what you want to do. That is the core of your answer. Internal medicine, pediatrics, or whatever. Understand what that specialty does, and then your experiences should be layered into that response. Red flag, like leaving a prior US residency, oh my God, that is a red flag. The unfortunate piece is if you leave a US residency, you really have to tell them what happened, and they will likely want to, talk to that program to see what was going on. That is a really a red flag. Yes. So I don't know what the question is, but that is a red flag. I had psych US experience but applied to IM. Do I have justification? Should I bring it by myself or wait to be asked? Obviously, should be there on your CV in terms of your experience. What you will want to do in the interview is directly, indirectly, if they ask, why all this experience in psych. So I'm hoping you have some IM experience also, IM LORs, but you want to be able to relate the learnings from the psychiatry and how they'll be useful in internal medicine. So obviously counseling is a big piece. So what you have learned, with patient management, dealing with the patients, their families, how will they be useful in internal medicine? And maybe there are other aspects, the teamwork and working with other physicians, etc., that you may have done in psychiatry. Maybe even you may have done some research, and the research methodology, the structure, etc., remains the same. So how you will use those skills in internal medicine? Should we bring up the reason for gap in the CV or wait for them to ask? So I have covered it in another webinar. Remember, they know it and they will discuss it. If you don't bring it up, they will end up discussing it in their team meetings when they finally put the rank order list. So it is in your interest to bring up, and if it's a family reason, that's fine. What are the key factors in your view the programs are looking for in an interview? So Well, interview is a conversation, right? So that's one thing. They want in if I were to give you one brief sentence, every program is looking for a fit. Now, this fit is a very abstract term. It's hard to define, but they want someone they can work with for 3 years, right? They don't want crybabies. They don't want people who will be spoon fed. They want people who will be able to work in a team, who can make independent decisions, various qualities, right? Hard work, that's obviously important. Clinical skills, they will teach you. If they have invited you, they are okay with your overall profile. So clinicals, I think, unless you are interviewing at programs in New York, some of those clinicals, they will teach you. Other than that, it's the hard work, it's the ability to work in team, communication, and communication is not just English. It is how you relate to the other team members, to the patients. All those are things that they are testing in the interviews that they are looking for. I wish you all the best for your interview season. Let us know how we can help. So of course, we have classes. There are a lot of other materials, and our team is on Facebook as well in this group. So anything that we can help with, we'll be happy to. Otherwise, good luck to all of you, and see you next month in one of our other live videos.